What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and I know I said a couple weeks ago that I wasn't going to do this, taking a side of whether or not the Blizzard Sorceress is OP, but what the heck? Let's compare some of the best high-end Sorceresses against each other, because there's been a lot of swirling opinions on whether or not the Cold Sorceress or Blizzard Sorceress is OP with the Cold Thunder Charm, and how it sort of stacks up in comparison to other characters. So today, I'm going to pit very high-end Sorceress builds against each other. So a very high-end Nova Sorceress, high-end Chain Lightning and Lightning variant, high-end Fireball Meteor variant, high-end Fireball Hydra variant, and again, the OP Blizzard Sorceress build. We're going to compare all of them against each other and see which one actually comes out on top. With that being said, before we do, I want to shout out today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Come a little bit closer, guys. I have a little bit of a secret for you. Today's secret is about a hidden gem, a free hidden gem, something that costs you nothing but makes your entire life a million times better. And it also happens to be on the greatest mobile game of all time, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid has a ton of new champions, over 600 now, and all of those champions come with unique factions with their own unique history. And my favorite faction is the High Elves, and their backstory is very cool. Their homeland, Aravia, has been around for thousands of years, surviving the fall of the Lizardman Empire, helped the humans form into civilizations, and defeated the orcs when they formed a huge horde and attacked the continent. But then things got twisted when Cyrath, the Lord of Darkness, convinced a bunch of elves to go evil and attack the kingdom. The Civil War nearly ended the elves, but Aravia, rebuilt, is now stronger than ever. Absolutely awesome. And this month is huge for Raid. They just released a brand new faction, the Sylvan Watchers, with some amazing new champions, Forest Elves, Ents, Druids, Fays. They're all here, and I can't wait to summon and play with them all. And if that's not enough, Raid's got a full lineup of events along with a new season of the Forge Pass where you can get your hands on some of the most powerful gear the game has ever seen. Also, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get your exclusive reward in Raid right now. This is the best time to get started in Raid, and if you click on my link in the description or scan the QR code here on screen, you'll get a unique bonus worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Rector Droth, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard. So you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in-game. All of this treasure will be waiting for you here. So I want to first start off by covering the testing methodology and the reasoning behind that methodology for the comparison of these 5 different builds. So I ran Chaos Sanctuary, Players 8 difficulty, clearing every single monster, and the timer started the second that entered the Chaos Sanctuary. And then I proceeded to clear every single monster, and again run an average of 10 runs per different character build. And then I took the total average time from those 10 runs and then put it up on the leaderboard to actually compare which has the fastest clear speed. So there are a couple frequently asked questions that I know you guys are going to ask me, so I'm just going to answer them ahead of time. The first is, why did I choose Chaos Sanctuary over other areas? Well, for this testing, I had different Sorceress builds on single player, so it was the easiest way to replicate the same map seed. And then in addition to that, areas like Bale, there's a lot of waiting between Bale waves, and I don't feel like that's a good representation of a character's power. Like if you clear a wave and then you're just waiting for the next one to spawn, versus just jumping from pack to pack with no interruption in Chaos Sanctuary. That's why I felt like it was the best area for testing. Second frequently asked question is, why did I choose Players 8 difficulty over Players 1 and 3? Well, that's because I was using very high-end gear to test these different builds. If you have a high-end Nova Sorceress on Players 1, for example, or Blizzard or whatever, everything melts the second you touch them on a lower difficulty, so I felt like Players 8 was the best way to sort of a good overall average sense of the clear speed. And then the next frequently asked question, the third one, is what gear did I use? There's too many different build variants to cover the gear in its entirety, but essentially I used the best possible damage piece for that particular build. So if it was Blizzard, I was using Fathom and Nightwings. Lightning variants, I was using Infinity or an Infinity Mercenary, Griffins, Faceted Griffins. Fire would be Flickering Flame and Phoenix. Anything that would sort of boost the damage to the highest possible amount you could get. And then it would run full inventory of Skillers and a Torch and Annie, just to sort of have an average spread of very high-end gear variants for Fire, Cold, and Lightning. And the final frequently asked question is, why did I not include budget variants? And that's just because the more budget you go, the stronger a Blizzard Sorceress is because of Cold Mastery. That's a lot of the reason why I think people think the Blizzard Sorceress with Thunder Charms is so OP early on, and I do actually agree. Again, more on that when I get to the end of the video when I go over the results, but the more budget that you go, the stronger the Blizzard Sorceress gets, and the weaker the Fire and Lightning variants end up being. So I thought, in order to test like the overall strength of these builds, I thought their best potential was the best way to test them between each other, if that makes sense. So let's start off first by covering the Blizzard Sorceress. The results were very interesting. The build that everybody dubs as being OP and broken with the Cold Thunder Charm did perform very well. I tried to make sure that I was constantly casting Static Field in addition to Blizzard and Ice Blast with, again, max damage gear, which actually netted an average time of 3 minutes and 15 seconds over 10 different runs. So I thought that was very good, considering some have made the arguments that with enough facets and high-end gear, lightning and fire variants will actually outperform cold. But 3 minutes and 15 seconds for an average of 10 different runs, I thought was very good for the Blizzard Sorceress. Next up, we have the Fireball Meteor Sorceress. Now, this build variant actually performed the poorest out of every single build that I tested, which I thought was surprising. I did try to take advantage of Meteor and Static as often as I could, but Meteor is really just a boss clearing skill. It doesn't work too good with large groups of monsters, or at least I personally don't think that it does. I found that half the time the monsters would probably be dead from the fireball shot before Meteor actually landed, but the casting delay does give you an opportunity to take advantage of Static. Now, the slower clear speed could maybe be attributed because of the large groups of Venom Lords, but you'd be surprised because the next fire variant actually far outseated Meteor, but I ended up with an average clear speed of 3 minutes and 45 seconds over 10 runs with the very powerful Fireball Meteor variant. And again, this was a little bit slower than what I was actually anticipating. So the next fire variant actually really surprised me with how well it performed, and that was the Hydra Fireball variant. Now, way back during the evolution of patch 2.4, they did reduce some of the damage synergies for Hydra, and a lot of people were upset thinking that it made the build just not as good as a standard Fireball Meteor variant, but this test, honestly, I think disproves that. Now, I did, again, cast Hydras and then spam Fireball and Static Field to try and maximize my clear speed, but the clear speed was significantly faster, almost 30 seconds faster for an entire Chaos Sanctuary run. Now, I'm not really sure if it's just maybe the fact that you're spamming Fireball, and then while that's happening, you have tons of Hydras that are shooting out Firebolts, because the actual casting of the Hydras does take some time, which made me sort of think that it was going to be slower than the Fireball Meteor variant. But once you have all those Hydras casted, it's a massive volley of Firebolts that are very powerful, in addition to your very strong Fireballs. So the combination of those two skills in Static Field actually ended up with the net result of a clear speed of 3 minutes and 15 seconds, which actually matched the Blizzard Sorceress output. This was very surprising to me. I did not expect the Hydra Sorceress to perform so well, but it's actually a really strong and I think undervalued fire variant. Build number 4 is a fan favorite from at least the introduction of patch 2.4 and beyond in Diablo 2 Resurrected, and that is the Nova Sorceress. Now, this build was an Infinity self-wielding Nova Sorceress with an Insight Mercenary. Now, I did try two different variants of max vitality and max energy, and there really was no difference between the two other than quality of life. One, you didn't really have to pot as much, the other, you were drinking tons of pots. So in terms of clear speed, it was the same for both, but this build absolutely rips. If you enjoy the aggressive telestomp playstyle, you should definitely try this build out because it averaged the fastest clear speed out of every single build variant. Over the total of 10 different runs averaged together, I managed an average clear speed of 2 minutes and 55 seconds, so significantly faster than the Blizzard Sorceress, Meteor Sorceress, and Fireball variant. This is a very powerful, it's expensive build, but extremely powerful, and I highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't played this build yet. And last but not least, I covered the standard Lightning and Chain Lightning Sorceress build. Now, I did try two variants. One was a Crescent Moon Spirit wielding Sorceress, the other one was a Self-Infinity wielding Sorceress build, and both performed very well, but just for the sake of parity with the Nova Sorceress, I decided to go with the Infinity Self-Wielding Chain Lightning Sorceress. I still hit the 117 FCR breakpoint, and the build performed exceptionally well, with the clear speed that was very much similar in line with Blizzard and the Hydra variant. Now, it wasn't quite as fast as Nova, but I ended up with the full clear speed time of 3 minutes and 8 seconds. So very respectable. I mean, it was very high-end gear, talking faceted Viper Magi, faceted Griffin, self-infinity wielding setup. So again, very strong, but the clear speed was actually very similar to Blizzard and Hydra. So I thought that was very interesting, although the kingpin in this test clearly being the Nova Sorceress. So where does that leave us? The net results, what do we actually end up with? Well, to put it bluntly, in my humble opinion, I think it shows that with high-end gear, any of the variants, so Blizzard, Hydra, Meteor, Nova, Chain Lightning, are all very close to each other. So in terms of like ultimate peak power, everything is very similar. Now, with that being said, there definitely is absolutely, in my opinion, a huge disparity difference between starting off early on with a Blizzard Sorceress and Cold Mastery and the Cold Thunder Charm compared to starting off as like a Fire Sorceress. You guys all know that a standard budget Blizzard Sorceress is going to perform so much better, and then it was made even that much stronger with the Thunder Charm and Cold Mastery. So ultimately, I think it sort of illustrates or kind of shows a fundamental like build core issue with D2 and how just the one variant is just so much stronger being cold early on, leveling and progressing and building gear. I'm not necessarily advocating that it needs to be changed, but I think that is evident. Again, guys, let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree, but I do think it was interesting that high-end variants were all respectively performing in a similar range of each other. But definitely, I think everyone can agree that a Blizzard Sorceress is infinitely stronger than Lightning or Fire early on. So maybe in the future, new rune words or something could maybe address that or sort of make that disparity gap early on. Not quite as apparent between Cold, Lightning, and Fire, but again, that actual disparity is also heavily apparent if you compare like the Sorceress in general that has access to teleport compared to like a Fire Druid, for example, or a Summon Echo early on if you don't have Enigma. So I don't want to necessarily advocate for some massive changes. I just do think that overall, like reflecting on the results, it was interesting. But again, guys, please let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree, disagree, you think I missed anything, you'd like to see more testing videos like this in the future. I can do some more, scenario-based testing. Did actually enjoy making this video, so hopefully you enjoyed watching it. If you did, if you could throw a like on it, that'd be awesome. And I'll catch you guys on my next video or live stream. Peace out.
To